All right, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back. I hope we are enjoying the summer. Not as we do. We are working hard and bringing you this awesome session. So, as you have seen, there's no intros and anything because this was like an urgent webinar that we are hosting because we want to share some insights with you about flexible gambling licenses. So today we're going to explore opportunities and how you guys can overcome the challenges. So welcome again to this insightful discussion. In today's rapidly evolving gambling industry, you guys know that obtaining and maintaining licenses across several jurisdictions is both an opportunity, but sometimes also a challenge for operators. So our session will delve into these recent developments, some comparative analysis, and also some critical considerations surrounding gambling licenses in key jurisdictions. But I will not be doing this presentation because I have these two experts here who are going to share the insights. So you can see 𝐅𝐥𝐞𝐻 and 𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐿, both from 4H Agency. Ivan, Dimitri, nice to have you here.
Hi, Zoltan. Thank you very much for this kind words and kind introduction. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our webinar today. It's a great pleasure to have you all here. My name is 𝐅𝐥𝐞𝐻. I'm a partner and at 4H Agency and the head of Eastern European desk at our firm. Together with me on this magnificent webinar, our senior consultant, Dmitry Hodson, who is the head of CIS desk. And guys from Eastern Europe and CIS will share some insights on how to work with the flexible license all over the world. We will compare the opportunities the market right now is presenting to the operators and the B2B providers. And basically, yeah, Dmitry, could you please share the presentation so we can start with our webinar?
Here we go.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, as we have already mentioned, today we're going to speak about the flexible licenses. I guess Zoltan has some kind of initial questions for us to answer. So yeah, please feel free to ask them and we will be happy to answer in great details here.
All right. So, and everyone who is joining us on LinkedIn, Twitch, or YouTube, make sure to send your questions in the comment section if you want to ask Ivan during this webinar or Dimitri some questions. So, guys, so can you provide an overview on the recent developments in the global gambling license landscape? And maybe could you also point out how have these changes impacted operators that are seeking flexible licenses?
For sure. We will be happy to share these updates. Actually, the whole hustle started with the long-awaited reform of the Curaçao regulations. At first, this question was raised sometime in the COVID times when the Curaçao was and is actually dependent on the Netherlands, and Netherlands require Curaçao to adopt some kind of new legislation concerning the operation of gambling, because everybody knows that starting like from, I guess, in 1996, when the first master licensee was issued, Curaçao has become one of the prominent leaders in terms of the flexible license. And actually, operators all over the world were engaged in the Curaçao operation. That is why Curaçao is still very popular today. But this hustle was actually evolved into the adoption of the stricter regulation. Well, to put a note, not yet adopted, but already started to be adopted. I will put it in this way, because we're still yet to see the new regulations in place. But unfortunately, it's still not finalized yet. But the master licensees already stopped issuing the sub-licensees, and actually, to be honest with you, in the middle of August, most of the sub-licensees would be expired. So everybody has already been forced to obtain that so-called transitory license. It's quite also interesting to see how transitory license is evolving, because actually there is no particular act, adopted laws in relation to this transitory license working place. The whole regime basically right now is based on some kind of orders or I don't know, like acts from the Ministry of Finance or other regulators concerning the Curaçao operations. So it's kind of very, very transitory regime. But in any case, the era of the sub-licensees is already actually falling down, and everybody is forced to obtain this transitory license. We actually had a great amount of projects related to this obtaining of this transitory license, and it's still not so easy to obtain because Curaçao is imposing new and new regulations in terms of product, in terms of everything. Yeah. And yes, please, the next slide, please. Yes, and basically what we are going to do today is actually to speak about the following things. Recent developments, which I've already started to talking about. I guess if everybody will wake up me in middle night, I will start talking about recent developments related to Curaçao and advising them how to operate there and what to choose instead of Curaçao. Well, and that's why we decided to make it public and to share with you all the insights we have from the current market practice we are facing, from the market practice our clients are facing. And basically, I have already mentioned some couple of things related to issues with Curaçao, but we'll touch upon a little bit more on this. And definitely, if the Curaçao is not an option, we will look at the comparative jurisdictions. As you can see on the right side of the slide, this is the comparative jurisdiction that we're going to touch upon on this webinar. Obviously, this is not the exhaustive list of the flexible license operators are working all over the world, but I would say that this is the 4 licenses which are heavily used in a variety of markets in Europe, in Asia, and in other regions. Also, we talk about today about the actual differences between these flexible licenses. So what you need to obtain it, how much does it cost, our AML stuff, but we will touch upon it later in greater details. And we will also summarize in this webinar key traps to avoid, which our clients and basically the whole market are facing when they're trying to obtain these licenses. I guess we can move to the next slide. So yeah, as I've already mentioned, Curaçao was the prominent leader in terms of offering their flexible license solutions. Everybody on the market was operating via Curaçao license. It was easy to obtain. The practice was actually was really set in stone, I would say. Everybody was only talking. I mean, not long ago, but like 5 or 6 years ago, everybody started talking. Okay, what's happening with Curaçao? There is some reform that is going to happen. Actually, to be honest with you, the whole process was so long, so I actually didn't expect that to finalize it somewhere in the future. And my predictions are kind of right, but for the time being, obviously, that Curaçao is still trying to adopt new regulations, and basically from what we see from the drafts of this new legislation, we understand that this is going to be akin to Malta model, but in a more, I would say, flexible way. I see Dmitry is unmuted and he maybe wanted to add something on this, or you just unmuted?
Yeah, no, actually, regarding Curaçao, that just, I think, the stupidest missed opportunity. We'll show some info regarding the dominance of Curaçao, and we may speculate on trends that we are seeing here, but yeah, it's it's just so dumb that they're like trying to fix their already problematic industry with the approach that's not working in industry, which is based on the ability to adapt quickly, and trying to adapt your industry within 4 years and counting. It's like something that's nothing more than a missed opportunity here, and we're seeing it with the competitor licenses. We're seeing it with the huge amount of requests from our clients, like who were working with Curaçao since, I don't know, 2010 or something. And yeah, it just I wouldn't say Curaçao is a bad license. We will talk about that a bit later. But still, I just can't wrap my mind around that. How can they fail it that miserably? So yeah,
Yeah, and basically, in addition to Curacao problems that right now is happening on the market, we also see, and everybody is seeing, the news related to POGO license. This is Philippines offshore license, which actually last 2 weeks, or maybe last week, decided to close all these operations. So basically, you have a great number of operators who were working either with Curacao, very popular, very straightforward, very, in any case, very useful for these operations. You have also operators who were working with POGO license, and basically we have problems here, we have problem there, and we finally boils down to the other options, and operators are faced the problem of choosing the new jurisdiction, new flexible licenses to switch on, because they still need to operate globally. And this is the problem that all operators and B2B providers, mostly operators obviously, are facing. And that is why we are going down to new. Well, I wouldn't say that they are new. They were existing long ago before, but not everybody was looking at them because they don't need to look at them. And they have Curacao, they have POGO, and everybody was working fine. But after some reforms, either closure or modification, they goes down to the new licensing regimes. Okay, I guess we can move forward.
Yeah, in the meantime, guys, if you want to take, there's a question on LinkedIn about Curacao.
Already,
maybe
we just started,
yeah,
and
yeah, it says, and Natalia says it's a painful question concerning Curacao, as their provider asks them to apply for an additional Forex license. Maybe can you give some explanation, or is it necessary or not?
Depends on the provider and their requirements, I would say, because it's hard. Well, from our experience, for those who were working with the Curacao sub-licensee, so basically the previous regime, they are asked to move to transitory license. And actually banks, providers, game providers, whatever, they started to ask these questions. In terms of the Forex license, I don't know, Dmitry, if you have any insights, but I guess this boils down to the particular requirements of the provider and the particular type of business they are doing, because we cannot answer to the open-ended question like, do you need Forex license? For what? For which activity? So basically, it's kind of not such a straightforward question, I would say, concerning the lack of details here.
Yeah, I think we may think about that with two optics in mind. First and foremost, Curacao currently just established clear rules about currencies that may be accepted, including cryptocurrencies as a deposit from the players. And for some, I may suggest that for some payment system providers, they would need to have like a second confirmation that the operator working in Curacao is subject to some restrictions and regulation related to the acceptance of payments and converting currencies from one to another. But the second optics here is that just like simple fact that currency trading is regulated activities in some countries, and I mean regulated in gambling terms. So if we are talking about something akin to what is defined as a spread betting, you may like increase your chances to find a good partnership via obtaining both just Forex trading license and in addition a gambling license. But speaking from the regulatory terms, as regards just gambling side of the deal, we are not seeing any requirement to get any Forex license here. From the Curacao legal perspective, if you are licensed under Curacao regime, either the expiring one, either that transitory one, you may accept payments, you may make obviously payouts, and you're not limited to just local currency. You may accept dollars, euro, some generally accepted cryptos, etc.
Yes.
But yeah, in any case, it's not something that Curacao requires. But again, it's not hard to imagine the situation where your provider is asking you for some additional compliance measures, because they are first on the line when they are asked for by the regulators, like, guys, you are a PSP in Europe, you are processing some huge pile of transactions. So what you're doing here, and can you please elaborate on your clients?
Right, so Natalia, I'll make sure to reach out to these guys if you have further questions about this.
Thank
All
you.
right, so guys, carry on.
Yeah, so actually the whole process of deciding whether you need flexible license or you would need a local license obviously boils down to a couple of criteria which we actually presented on the website. I actually can do it myself, Dmitry. Yeah, yes, I can do it. Perfect. Thank you very much for the permission rights. Basically, is the ease of obtaining the license, university of this license. Well, this is point kind of considerable. It's not so straightforward because obviously when you're working in the country with the local regime, with the local regulations, this country sometimes have its own license. So we have the conflict of licenses here. And I would say that generally this flexible license is so-called of workaround, but overall you need to obtain the local license. But we will be living in the magnificent world where everybody would be obtaining the local license in each and every country, and everybody would be compliant with everything they can be compliant. But we live in a real world when everybody is working through the flexible license, and this license allows this university of operations in variety of regulated or unregulated countries. The next thing is recognizable criteria. What does it mean? Basically, in terms of the acceptance of the flexible license, most of the questions boils down to the two main things. This is your payment provider, PSP, basically what Dmitry has already mentioned, and game providers. Usually, these two stakeholders are the ones who require having some sort of license, some sort of flexible license, in order to work on the particular markets, to accept payments from this particular market, from the citizens of the particular market. So this is the recognizability of the flexible license. And the last but not the least criteria is the predictability. Well, that's kind of interesting stuff because Curaçao was the predictable stuff until long ago, and everybody was working like for more than 2 decades. Everybody was fine. Curaçao was working all over the world. All right, there was a Malta license. There was a kind of believing that Maltese license was allowing to work in a European market. This was justified by the decision of the European Court related to the movements of funds and services across the Europe. But later on, actually, each and every European country started to implement its own licensing regime, and the golden area of the golden century of the Maltese license was actually closed. So we still boils down to Curaçao. And this is actually, yes, Curaçao. Is it so predictable or not? Kind of questionable, I would say, because right now everybody just doesn't know what to do with these licenses. Everybody is forced to obtain transitory license. And what will happen with transitory license? Will it be, in what way it will be converted to the full-fledged Curaçao license? Well, we'll yet to see how it is going to move forward, how it is going to be implemented, what other requirements would be implemented in new legislation. This is all the question marks we're facing, and we will see how it goes. But from our understanding, regime would allow still operation on the very different markets, but the devil is in the details, and we'll see what is going to be implemented. The next thing to touch, I would say, is the usability of the flexible licenses. Actually, in-house, we made a research. We have analyzed more than like 300 websites of offshore operators under the particular, you can see the list of the countries here, under the particular VPN of this country, concerning actually the research in local languages, obviously, because the players in, for example, in France are looking for the website in French, obviously, and the guys in Sweden are actually looking for the offshore operators in Swedish language. Yeah, so we were forced to search it very, very closely, and you see the results of our research. They are quite astonishing, and they are quite not astonishing, well, I would say, but kind of I would say, easy to understand. As you can see, Curaçao is still the prominent leader. Obviously, depends on the region, because you see the Netherlands, the mother of the Curaçao, doesn't hold a lot of Curaçao licenses operations. As you can see, only 23% of the websites are working through the Curaçao license. Also interesting trend, I guess we have mentioned, so Curaçao holds significant majority share in Denmark, France, Georgia, Kazakhstan, and Ukraine. Malta still, as I've told, hold the second place after the Curaçao in majority of markets. I would say this is mostly also justified by the legacy of the Maltese regulations and what are they doing each and every year in order to update their regulations in terms of the compliance with the current, I would say, AML, mostly AML things related to the acceptance of payments. And also interesting leaders, 𝐿𝐥𝐞𝐱𝐢𝐛𥥗𝐿𝐴 and 𝐾𝐢𝐿𝐴, they're trying to compete with the leaders. Yes, they're trying to obtain more and more market share in terms of the working on the different markets. Obviously, as you can see from the list of countries, they are devoted to European, CIS, and mostly European and CIS countries. Yes, and in our view, we understand that the percentage of Curaçao operation will definitely go down due to new strict requirements, due to new, more tightened ways to obtain this license. And we'll see how it's going to be. But I guess we need to agree on the next webinar, like in a half year. And we're going to share the updated statistic, and it would be also interesting to watch. We will share it in every case we can. But my prediction is we're going to see the reduce of the Curaçao operations and the development and the growth of the 𝐿𝐥𝐞𝐱𝐢𝐛𥥗𝐿𝐴 and 𝐾𝐢𝐿𝐴 operations, because 𝐿𝐥𝐴 would be one of the best, I would say, options in terms of the easiness and the financial things to obtain. But we will touch upon on each and every license. I mean, not from this list. If we're going to touch all this flexible license, so we're going to spend like 3 or 4 hours describing each and every requirement. But we will boil down actually to the main. But yes, this is the question from Dmitry, which we were discussing. But are they really so different? Yes. And yes, Dmitry, please proceed on the describing the particular requirements of each and every license that was under the scope of our, I would say, research.
Okay, thank you. So before we go, I have to admit that it was quite a challenge to make the following part of the presentation not look like a lecture in a university when we are talking about 4 different jurisdictions here, but something more interactive and easy to understand, because basically we are talking about technicality, about licenses, and I'm again admitting I am falling to sleep once I'm seeing that thing, but again, we will try to do our best not to make you asleep as we are. Yeah. Fine.
Quick comment. I'm just looking once again at this chart, and actually one idea pops onto my mind. Unfortunately, only right now we have to put our logo here, like a watermark here, so everybody who will be sharing this stuff would know that it's from us. But at least corporate colors are in place. That's also good.
Okay, let's watermark everything you see here. So let's start our deep diving into the world of flexible licenses. And here, nothing changed. Curaçao only local companies, 𝐿𝐥𝐴, 𝐾𝐢𝐿𝐴, 𝐵𝐸, they allow you to establish in any other country that you may want to. And in our practice, the key consideration here are taxes, and apart from that, the ease of corporate governance. So it's easy to think about companies established in Latin American countries or in some offshore jurisdictions, but here you have to be aware of the general AML perception of certain jurisdictions. So trying to, my screen sharing is paused for some reasons. I think we are back on track. Yeah.
Yep.
Here again, you have to be wary of the risk of establishing in some, I would say, too offshore jurisdictions like Marshall Islands or something in Oceania, just because be realistic, establishing here just increases your chances of not getting any decent banking or PSP relations. So yeah, choose wisely here. Now, regarding type of licenses, each of those jurisdictions provides for both B2B and B2C licenses. And I think today we are talking more to the audience of B2B providers, B2B operators. So for you, nothing changed so far. You may work with any supplier, provided that they are certified and their games are certified, but you're not required to be in a ring-fenced situation where you are permitted to work just with B2B licensed providers in your jurisdictions. The trend that's interesting here is Curacao. Currently, the regulator is trying to push through the B2B licensing regime. They have right to introduce it within 2 years after the introduction of the new law, but I think it's not like guaranteed that we won't see some requirements like, guys, you are working from Curacao, so you have to work with our B2B suppliers. So it's not on the table for now, but I just see some tendencies here, and I don't like how they are presented. So again, I wouldn't be extremely surprised to see in 2 or 3 years an updated requirement for the Curacao licensee to work exclusively with Curacao-based B2B suppliers. Yeah,
no, I just wanted to add that actually, when we're talking about the circle of obligation of working B2C operators only with licensed B2B providers, this is kind of the stuff of the local regimes, like in Romania, for example. They have the same ring-faced actually obligation. So you as an B2C operator cannot take any providers, any games, any solutions. So there is a long list of things that is fall down into the B2B licensing regime. So it is quite important that this is the characteristics actually of the local licensing, not the flexible license. So we're kind of shifting from this flexibility stuff to the certain elements of the local regime stuff. So it's kind of fascinating to see how the flexible becoming not so flexible. Apologies for this kind of thing, but this is how it is working right now. Not right now, but it is looking to work, I would say.
Yeah, enough flexing. Let's make it straight to the point. Yeah. So again, what's good for all of those jurisdictions is that single license will allow you to offer all verticals. There is some issues with 𝐷𝐸𝐞 when you are technically required to have a live studio license to operate live dealers and provide opportunity to wager on those events. But let's try that. Sorry, I think, yeah, I think presentation is on the screen again. But in practice, we don't see much of an effort from B2C operators to get additional certifications. So yeah, for the time being, we may tell that every vertical is covered. And white label operations possibilities, each of those jurisdictions just allow you to operate several websites and buy additional websites as needed. Here at Curacao, taking the lead under the transitory regime, they allow you to have up to 40 domain names, and if needed, you may buy for some small fees of, I think, €300 or something per year to get to introduce new domain names into your license. And coming back to the question of recognition, and that's extremely important thing in terms of practice. Curacao is the best recognized license, obviously historic reasons, links to the European Union country, etc. 𝐾𝐢𝐜𝐞 trying to get the fame of Curaçao here, and generally we don't see problems with PSPs and game suppliers to work with 𝐾𝐢𝐜𝐞 licensed operators. 𝐷𝐴NJUAN and 𝐵𝐵𝐞, they are a bit different. As to 𝐷𝐴NJUAN, the wall of non-acceptance, non-recognition from the suppliers is falling down. If we were talking on ICE in London this year with game suppliers, they would say, well, 𝐷𝐴NJUAN, yes, but we are not sure. We have to talk to our compliance guys. And you know, these Comorian islands, they are close to be FATF gray or blacklisted, and we don't know. For now, seems like everything is going smoother. You may partner with one of the best suppliers of games on the market without additional hassle, and that's good in general for the license. But you just have to be aware of potential issues, especially when you are working with tier 1 providers. Technically, you may see the way out when working with game aggregators, but still, it's likely that you will see some additional limitations in comparison to Curaçao or 𝐾𝐢𝐜𝐞. Interestingly, 𝐵𝐵𝐞, obviously, it's a new license. It started, it's rolled out in 2024. We don't see much of a practice here, but my suggestion, and actually my bet here, is that 𝐵𝐵𝐞 will at least level on 𝐷𝐴NJUAN level of recognition, or even overcome the 𝐷𝐴NJUAN level of recognition quite soon, because just the way they are trying to implement the changes to their gambling regime is astonishing. They provide a clear framework. They offer quite reasonable license fees, and they established generally accepted AML practices and requirements for gambling operators. So I'm not sure, but I quite think that seeing 𝐵𝐵𝐞 overcoming 𝐷𝐴NJUAN in terms at least of recognition is something on a resolved side of the probability scale. So let's get to the most important and probably hardest to understand part of our presentation.
But usually the most boring stuff.
Yeah, and usually the most boring stuff here. So each license requires the potential licensee to provide a list of persons who are considered key persons. Obviously, we are talking about UBO as shareholders. So, obviously, we are talking about the directors of your company who are direct manager of the B2C provider and the person responsible for compliance with all the legal regulations and AML requirements. But also, we are talking about some prominent roles held by persons in B2C operators, including CEO, COO, CTO, etc., other C-suite level. And what's important here, UBO and shareholders are quite universally required to confirm both their identity by providing their IDs, residential information, in most cases, utility bills and bank reference letters are enough. But in addition, they are required to provide conclusive information on their source of wealth and source of funding. Some minor difference here. Source of wealth explains how a person, a natural person behind the company, whether it's a UBO or shareholder, makes its money and reports its money and how much taxes this person pays. Source of funds, when we're talking about source of funds, we are talking about the money that will be used for funding the business of new operator. So they are obviously quite related, but when you are talking about source of funds, where will I take money to fund my business, you're not basically answering to the question how you made those money in the first place. And this is something that we see as an extremely problematic for lots of potential businesses, because they're not just used to working under the synchronized standard that is accepted in Europe, US, and other developed markets. When you have to prove everything you made, show the flow of funds, how you make those money, how you report, and how you tax those money in the jurisdiction where you live. Yeah, Ivan.
Yeah, just quick comment from my end. When we're talking about these key persons, you have to understand, this is not only the requirements to obtain the license. You need to think a couple of steps forward, because when you obtain the license, you need to find some PSP provider for your operations. And especially when you're operating in European countries, the requirements related to these key persons, mostly to UBO and directors, but also there are other stuff related to basically to other individuals. The PSPs is going to look very deeply at the source of wealth, at the origination of funds, at the profiles, at the experience. So you need to be careful in terms of this.
So moving forward, license term, it's quite universal apart from Kanawake and Curaçao. Under the current regime, it's supposed that the transitory licenses are for 1 year, and the licenses to be issued under the new regulation, the so-called lock, they will be eternal. You just need to pay your license fees to renew it, but overall, it's quite a standard practice. 1 year license, you renew it, once expired, so you pay license fee, and you are moving forward seamlessly without interruption for your business. And speaking about timing, so we just put some estimates here. They are quite relevant in terms of market practice, but just for you to understand, you may never predict, like with a 1 week or sometimes 1 month accuracy, how quick will you get your license. In most cases, it's becoming problematic to fill up all that administrative steps, like getting all the documents properly certified, posted, sent, and wherever. Plus, you obviously are having time with the regulator coming with the question and just answering those questions back and forth. So practically about 3 months would be enough for you to complete your task of getting license. But again, it depends greatly on the quality of your documents and on the cooperation from your internal teams. When you've got your IT guys and tech guys who need to provide some information about your games and platform, and your legal staff who need to ensure that all the documents coming from different jurisdictions are in compliance with the requirements of the provider. And in these cases, especially when you are working without some legal representative or advisory help, just be sure to check out all the forms and understand in what forms and what format the documents are required from you. So just especially if you are working with Curaçao and Anjuan, who are seeing quite a flood of new applications, if you are missing on some formalities, you are likely be put on the back of the waiting queue and would need to wait for the next available spot to go. Received, okay. If we receive transitory license, can we add new domain now or after the new law comes? No, you may add up to 40 or 40 URLs. You just need to update your information, send the updated form to the Curaçao regulator. So that's if we are talking about from a formal side of the things. In practice, you may see delays just because the Curaçao regulator is understaffed and quite overwhelmed. They've got, I think, about 700 and something applications by the by 1st July 2024. So it's not likely that you will see your updated application processed really soon. But yeah, 40 domains are included in your 40 domains are included in your application already. And if you want to add some new websites, you need to pay a small fee and update your application accordingly. But it's not something prohibited here. And coming forth, substance. When we are talking about substance, we are talking about some presence in the jurisdiction of your license. And Curaçao is leading the way here. They require you to have an office and servers. And for the transitory license, it's not something extremely important, but once the new regime will be is introduced, timer will start. In 3 to 5 years, you are required to put additional substance on your operations in Curaçao, starting from one person to be employed in Curaçao and actually visiting an office, not just a PO box. And in the year 5 after the introduction of the new regulation, you will require to have, I think, about 3 to 5 persons working from Curaçao. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but if we are talking about a nation of approximately 150,000 people, yeah, and understanding that not all of those people are fit for your job, it's wise just to start thinking about employing people in Curaçao if you are not planning to leave the jurisdiction in 3 to 5 years. And it's not all. The regulator may increase the burden here, and strictly speaking, it's a political decision whether we want to show that the updated industry is bearing economical benefits for the island or not. And if the political agenda is going that way, I would not be surprised to see the requirement to employ 10 persons in Curaçao. And yeah, probably it's time to think about buying some office property or residential property in Curaçao. Just even if you are not working in Curaçao in 5 years, you may just lease those people and those property to other providers and participate in that sense in revenue share schemes with other providers.
Or at least you need to find some friends in HR agencies on the island. It also would be very useful in terms of finding the personnel there.
Yeah. And finally, license cost. Curaçao here is leading the way with their updated license, semi-updated license regime. The cost will be reduced when the new regulation is introduced, but as we see, comparatively, 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐾𝐻 and Curaçao are on the same level of costs, while 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐾𝐻 is a discount option for many reasons, and 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐾𝐻 is trying to fit in the lacune that we are seeing between Curaçao and 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐾𝐻, trying to offer some reasonable pricing, but without going to the level of our top list. And I think we've got another question. Based on your experience, what practical advice would you give to operators considering obtaining a gambling license in any of these 4 jurisdictions? That's a perfect question. We will come to
just quick comment from mine before we move to another slide. We will definitely answer for these questions in greater details, but the 2 key questions my clients, my potential clients, my existing clients are asking: what would be the time frame for obtaining the license, and what would be the cost? Everything that is sorted around there, this is crucial, obviously crucial, but usually these questions would be asked only when they decided on the time frame and the cost. As you can see from the comparison, well, this is not, I would say, strange that 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐾𝐻 is getting more and more positions in terms of operating via this license. So it's kind of logical, as you can see from the pricing and from the time frame for license issue. It's quite logical that everybody is right now is looking at Andron and already starting to obtain this license. Yes, please, Dmitry. Apologies.
Yeah. So yeah, again, we will talk about this later. I think you need to wait for another 2 slides, and we'll hopefully come to the discussion. And I think our incredible host will help us with sorting out all additional questions and keeping the webinar alive here. So yeah, no worries. We'll talk about that in great details. Promise. Last hard slide to understand, and we are good to go. So yeah, finally, some additional things to consider. Currently, you're not able to operate without at least some level of certification in any jurisdiction. As regards Curaçao, 𝐷𝐸𝐿, and Tobique, we are talking about generally about well-recognized international labs like BMM, IGT, and others of that spectrum. Regarding Andron, that's not that hard to get just some certification for your RNG and RTP. And again, speaking about Curaçao, 𝐷𝐸𝐿, and Tobique, both your in-house games and your in-house platform has to be certified against some international standard. What's good is that neither of those jurisdictions establishes proper technical regulations, and you are not limited to that specific jurisdiction when updating your internal systems or your games, just in case, for example, if you would like to have 2 licenses, and sometimes it is a case, especially for bigger businesses, to be protected from the storms that one jurisdiction may see. And in that sense, you are not required to adapt your programs and your games specifically for that market. Just be sure to be in compliance with some international standard. But again, Andron here is the simplest jurisdiction to get a license from the certification and all those related point of views. Prohibited jurisdictions, they're quite universal across the table. In practice, we would see something like you are seeing about Andron. You may operate in countries which are not strictly enforcing or just powerful enough to enforce all those local market requirements. Technically speaking, you are required not to operate in countries where the local regulations are applicable. And for example, in Curaçao and the updated regime, that would lead you to license revocation. And I think the first cases of license revocations under the new Curaçao regime we will see when Curaçao clashes with Australia. It's like I think decades of battle when the Australian operators, or at least Australian serving area Curaçao operators, are seeing backlash from Australian regulator, and regulator from Australia sending numerous warning letters to Curaçao, and Curaçao is trying to handle its industry. And yeah, I'm ready to bet that the first license revoked in Curaçao, those cases will be related to Australia.
Just quick comment on Australia. Recent market practice of Australian regulators, they are not only looking at Curaçao operators, they are also looking at European payment agents of such Curaçao operators. So it's quite interesting that they are looking into not only the guys who are operating, but also on the guys who process payments. So it's kind of very interesting, I would say, new things from the Australian regulator. It's still not the practice that is commonly used, but I would say we just see some first steps on this field.
So going next, AML rules. It was a lot of fuzz actually about the Curaçao new regulations regarding AML, but that's really interesting because in practice Curaçao doesn't introduce I think that would not be in line with some international standards. What Curaçao is doing is just aligning it with something that we are seeing and are obviously required to comply with. So for now, I wouldn't say this fuzz is just worth something. In practice, you see some similar requirements in all jurisdictions, and here are the only outlier is Anjuan. Their AML regulations are from 2005, I think. They've been updated several times, but still, we are talking about basically a legacy regulation with lots of lacunes. But in practice, I don't think any case where an operator seeking to operate more than like 1 year or 6 months would be missing completely on the requirements of IML rule, just because you are not responsible before the regulator itself, who may revoke your license, but you are responsible before your game suppliers, you are responsible before your PSP partnerships, and if you are not doing your proper in-house work on combating IML related issues, you are not seeing any person who will be able to offer services to you, or even if you do, likely your fees for your fees payable for that cooperation would be just unreasonable, so that you will likely be out of business quite soon if you like have to pay 10% or 15% to any PSP processing any card payment to you. So again, it's not something extremely burdensome. It's just how the world is operating now. You may not just like put on any number in your online banking and say like, send this money to some Marshall Island newly established company with shady UBO, etc. You are under control, and it's something that is coming to gambling, and it's not something that may be easily overcome. And I don't think we'll ever see like the world where people may bet like 10K, 50K, 100K without ever being asked for some verification documents here.
I guess
So,
this time has passed already.
Yeah, actually, it's passed like 7-8 years ago, but some aftermaths, we are seeing them now. So yeah, taxes probably the best part here. Pretty much every jurisdiction doesn't require you to pay taxes, especially except for Curaçao with the standard 2% corporate tax. Important thing here when we are talking about inapplicable taxes in Anjuan, 𝐷𝐿, and Tobique, we have to consider the place of incorporation of our gambling operator. It's if we are talking about some low to no tax jurisdiction, we will not pay any corporate or similar taxes. If you are establishing a Canadian company to operate for under 𝐷𝐿 or Tobique license, or I don't know, some Cyprus company to operate via an Anjuan license, you are obviously, for example, last case, you will be subject to 12.5% corporate tax. So structuring is a thing here. You shall craft your plan carefully here to both align with your tax expectation and corporate governance perspective, especially if you are talking with investors who may come to your project and invest and get a stake in your company. So what's a real difference between licenses? I wouldn't be surprised if you would say that like it's pretty much the same but different prices. Generally, yes. We would say there's 3 areas of differentiation between the licenses, and let's start just from recognition. As Vanya just mentioned some minutes ago, we are talking about the level of acceptance of that license in eyes of the industry, or the greater industry, especially among suppliers of games and PSP providers. And obviously, Curaçao in the first place with 𝐾𝐢𝐜𝐞𝐬, 𝐅𝐥𝐞𝐱𝐢𝐛𥥗𝐞𝐬 following 𝐾𝐢𝐜𝐞 and 𝐵𝐵𝐞 on the start of its path. I think in several months we will see 𝐵𝐵𝐞 and 𝐅𝐥𝐞 just merging in their position, and 𝐾𝐢𝐜𝐞 overtaking 𝐅𝐥𝐞 quite soon, but it's yet to see. In practice, even if we are trying to work via 𝐾𝐢𝐜𝐞 or via 𝐅𝐥𝐞 and 𝐵𝐵𝐞 license, you may see a lot of partnerships and a lot of possibilities here. So I wouldn't attract too much of attention to this part of the comparison, but just be aware that some top providers may see issues working with you due to their internal rules. Pricing, that's quite straightforward. Curaçao on the higher side and 𝐅𝐥𝐞 on the lower side. And now you may get the idea why I like currently the 𝐵IC license the most. It's something balanced in terms of recognition, in terms of the clarity of the rules, and it's something new that you may hop on quickly without waiting long lines with the Curaçao or 𝐅𝐥𝐞. And bit of talking about formalities. If you are seeking something with the lowest level of formalities, you go to 𝐅𝐥𝐞. It's like straight and simple. If you need something well established, you just need to go to Curaçao or 𝐾𝐢𝐜𝐞 and comply with all those fill the form stuff and file all those documents and wait for the decision to be made on your application. But in practice, again, 𝐵IC here seems to be the optimal solution. They do require you to provide document. They do require you to provide certification. They do require you to put some at least plausible AML policy. But as a result, you are getting a license that is quite well crafted in terms of international standards. You are seeing a potentially interesting jurisdiction, allowing you to do everything that Curaçao and 𝐾𝐢𝐜𝐞 allows you to do, but with smaller fees and lower level of uncertainty, especially in case of Curaçao. And yeah, so here, just trying to focus your attention on the Curaçao side of the thing. Despite all the fact that Curaçao is dead, blah, 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 etc., Curaçao is still ranked in most cases as a top choice. And even if we're talking about high level of formalities, again, if you are seeking something that may be used for 3-5 years and recognized universally, especially if we are talking about something required for processing payments in the Eurozone, if that is the case, Curaçao is your choice. And now let's talk about some universal traps with working with flexible licenses. And let's start with the question of UBO. Let's consider two situations. You are thinking about launching your product, and you're a key investor in the product, and your stake is well above 90%. You are a UBO of that gambling operator to be. Even if you've got like 10 companies or 10 trusts between you and your operating company, you are still UBO. You are a natural person that is ultimate beneficiary of that business. And in here, you just need to understand that you may not come out of question of where is your source of wealth, how will you fund your company, where are you living, what's your nationality, status, etc. Common question we are seeing, can guys from Russia or Belarus or from Iran or other similarly placed countries in current political situation, get licensed? No, UBO from those countries are not accepted just because it's not in compliance with the pervasive AML regulations that are applicable to the countries that issue those licenses. So if you are UBO consider your source of wealth, prepare documents in advance, get your personal documents apostilled and duly certified in the jurisdiction where you live in, and be ready to answer a lot of additional questions from the regulator. It's not because something changed. It's been like that for a long time. It's like a decade of work on establishing true UBOs, opening UBO registers, etc. So it's just the way the world works now. So you may not come out of those requirements. And turning back to the question of source of wealth, ideally, you need to be ready to present your tax declaration in the jurisdiction where you live in and in all of those jurisdictions where you've been living for the last 5 years. You may technically go to like as far as 10 years ago, but the last 5 years are in most cases the most relevant. If you are living in low to zero tax jurisdiction, like in Dubai before 2024, where they introduced some proper taxation for income above, I think, 250K per year. If you are living in Croatia on the digital nomad visa and wherever, you would need to have a legal opinion from Big Four level of firms or top legal firms in your jurisdiction, just to confirm that you are legally able not to pay taxes on your income. It's not something of a shady side of the tax optimization. You may optimize, but you may not avoid, as we all know. Yeah, and if additionally, you may provide your work contracts, your income statements related to capital gains or dividends or other type of investments. You may provide your slips of your B2B career, like your contracts, just reporting, etc. But in any case, you need to think about that strategically. Can you explain your income? Can you get like legal opinion confirming that your income is duly taxed, or if it's not taxed, that you are not required to pay taxes on that? Can you explain how you are planning to fund your business? It's not just enough to say I made $1 million 10 years ago and I will use that $1 million to fund my new startup in gambling domain. You need to show something that confirms that you've got that $1 million under your hand and may use those money to fund your business. A bit smaller thing, but that's still a trap for a lot of our clients when they're applying to the license, especially in Curacao now. Your business plan, it's not like copycat from ChatGPT generated terms on how to do gambling business. It's something that you are thinking about and improving when you are thinking about. And again, it shall be plausible. It shall correspond to at least your internal financial projections, and you need to be able to prove before the regulator that the number that you are thinking about and you're just projecting, they are real, they are achievable. If you've got some previous experience, use that and use it as a showcase, use it as a case study, and explain that, yeah, it's like we are planning to have a 3x or 4x growth in 2024, but we are doing it via 1, 2, 3, and we've had some previous experience on other projects, and we think that is achievable. We are planning to like 500K or 1 million in use as a marketing budget. We are planning to have an ROI of 20% and that kind of turnover. So be realistic and be plausible. Today, you may not just craft some business plan under like a guideline how to craft a business plan without referring to the real expectation of your business. You just will spend time doing something stupid and go back again in the waiting queue just to get your license because someone someone after you made a better business plan, and their application are taken to be processed by the regulator. So don't lose your time on stupid thing like stupid business plan. Be realistic. And last but not least, certification. It's not something important for operators working with suppliers when they are supplied with both platform and games. But if you've got some in-house game development, if you've got your platforms used for like 5-10 years, and you are not going to use some readily made solution, you need to think about certification. In here, I would start probably with scrolling through GLI website, looking for GLI 19 standard, GLI 33, I think, standard there for online casinos and betting operations, and just realistically take your internal team, your development team, and speak clearly with them. Are we can we implement those features into our product just to get that certification? Next, when you are talking with labs, we are strongly advising you to do that with your legal counsel or advisory partners. First and foremost, it's hardly likely that people in your company will be able to translate technical speech into the legal/technical speech that certification labs are using. So you would need some kind of human translator from technicalities to legalities, and to find the middle ground here. And additionally, before starting your work with some recommended laboratory, try to understand their practice in terms of the timing and general approach to your product. If we are talking about big eight test labs, we would likely see that BMM for some reasons is more accepted in terms of like the balance of work for operators in our regions than 𝐷𝐸𝐞, because 𝐷𝐸𝐞, they've got their way to do things. BMM, it has its way to do things in practice, depending on the stage of your development, depending on the amount of time you may put into updating your product. This may be relevant because, again, sometime you may discuss some options. Sometimes you may have some flexibility with the specific laboratories. They will issue a certification, and because they see things differently and which may be more in line with your expectation in comparison to some well-established brands in like 80s or 70s, and where they've got like internal rules that are not flexible enough to accommodate your needs today. Yeah, but Ivan.
Just quick comment on certification issue. I would say that yes, these requirements are quite important to adhere, but obviously there are certain workarounds. If your product, for example, is not certified and not tested, there are certain workarounds how to pass these requirements in terms of the licensing procedure. But this is just workaround. This is not straightforward process, but you just need to understand that sometimes it is not so obligatory to obviously this is desirable to certify your product. It is it shows the testing laboratory actually examines your product, and the users would be satisfied with the level of I would say safety and fairness of the product. But please note that there are certain workarounds how to obtain license without your product being tested, but it is just workarounds. Once again, this is not a straightforward process of not adhering to these requirements.
And that's all, guys. Let's start speaking about the best license. I think I will start, and I will start from the point we dropped it ourselves with 𝐋𝐢𝐜𝐴. I think 𝐵𝐸𝐿 and 𝐿 are the best options. speaking about some proven records, Curaçao is the way to go. If you may pay for Curaçao license, and if you may comply with those regulations and requirements, just go to Curaçao. You don't need to think about anything else, especially if you are not planning like a project for 1 year, like some pet project. If you are starting business, you shall to understand that the 10K difference in license fee, it's nothing for modern gambling business. You will pay like 10x, 15x that amount monthly just to attract new customers and retain them. So I would not like consider pricing as an important as something of primary importance when starting a business today. Rather, I would consider the reasonableness of the requirement and the alignments of the requirements in specific jurisdiction with the common and general practice. Because when you are licensed under the regime that is in line with the international standards, you are likely see it coming through some regulatory storms in a relatively safe place. Because let's just imagine in 2 years, FATF's coming to Anjuan and saying, no, guys, you have to either update your regulations, you have to deal with all our recommendations we gave you in 2010, or you will be cut out of financial system. And what likely will happen? You will see all your PSP providers working with you saying, sorry, we are stopping relations with you, and yeah, you've got debts of your players that may not be withdrawn. You may not accept new debts, and you are thinking, oh my God, I need to get a new license quickly. So yeah, think about that strategically. You are not trying to save like 10, 20K for just for a license. Those numbers are not significant in modern business. You need to understand how the amount of money that you overpay, how the amount of your internal efforts to comply with some new regulations, yeah, how they will translate in your future revenue. And in practice, your payments on your expenses on those issues are just bringing like 10x of the revenue. Yeah, Ivan.
No, Dmitry is saying obviously everything right and obviously very thoughtful and forward-thinking approach. This is what we usually implement in our clients' activities, in our clients' approach. So we advise them not to, work on a short basis term, but for the long period of time. So they would need to adhere and understand all the complexity they might face in the future. But advocating for the group of clients that are looking for cheap and fast solution, I would say Anjuan license would be a go license to obtain. But once again, this doesn't actually accounts what Dmitry has said, because Dmitry is actually right on the forward thinking and very straightforward process of thinking more than 1-2 years ahead. So it's kind of, you need to decide if you are in the group of clients that wanted like cheap and easy, this is Anjuan. If you would think a little bit more and try to evaluate more than a couple of criteria, not only cheap, not only fast, you need to adhere to Dmitry's advice. So it's kind of the approach you are looking into, basically. It really depends.
Zoltan, do we have any other questions from the audience?
Yes, we do. So there's
I guess a lot.
Yeah, we have 4 questions actually. So the first one would be about what strategies do you guys recommend for operators to stay compliant with the evolving regulatory requirements in these 4 jurisdictions, and especially given the fact that there's a dynamic nature of global gambling regulations out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe the key point is how to be up to date and up to speed with everything.
Well, let's start. I would say I would stick to again, to some strategic approach, try to make an internal audit of your operations and understand your real deficiencies. Like, be real with yourself, because if you are trying to put patches on just randomly, sometimes you put it on the right place. Sometimes it's not. You're just spending money for complying with something that is not relevant. But after that, just think about way to optimize your expenses on that. If you're doing your AML work in house, probably you would have better value just engaging some AML experts or testing or AML security projects and outsource that work to them. Afterwards, if you are thinking about getting your platform certified in the future, yeah, just start developing with the potential certification in mind. And last but not least, if you are quite well-established brand with multi-jurisdictional operations and you are targeting new markets, you need to think. Not even need, you have to think about establishing some additional setup, like Curaçao license plus 𝐷𝐷𝐞𝐽 license or 𝐷𝐚𝐦𝐾 license, just because you may not be shielded against what we are calling the dynamic nature of the market. If for whatever reason, like Curaçao in one day are saying like Pogo, we are seeing something like a Pogo case in Curaçao, like we're stopping operating. Yeah, you're just stuck with a non-working license, and it's obviously it's not something that you would have to see if you are investing constantly in your business and you are trying to make it an internationally recognizable brand with a name and attractiveness to people. So yeah, be real with yourself, make an audit, think about what you're trying to achieve in the future, and act accordingly. Like, think about the regulation that you need to apply with to comply with when developing your product. Establish partnership strategically. Just not try to seek the best option with your payments. If you understand that this payment service provider will be out in 3 months, you will likely spend more time and money in terms of your internal costs just to switch to some other providers. And think about the backup plan, especially when we are talking about flexible license. You just need to have 2 licenses. So once you are on a certain level of operation, just because you may not put 100% wage on your capital just on one jurisdiction.
I would just add that totally agree with Dmitri's response. I would just only add that first of all, you need to monitor, basically audit the new requirements that are arising due basically on the flexible market licenses. And when you're facing some new requirements, sometimes, I'm not advertising for our agency or for any lawyers, for any consultants you may understand, but sometimes it's better to work with the guys who already know how to deal with new requirements, not to make certain mistakes. For example, the situation with transitory license. From my information, which I received from my guy in the Curaçao regulator, like 70% of the applications which were filed to obtain transitory license were rejected or were forwarded back to update due to the inaccuracy of filing these forms. Speaking of our clients, everybody was like, go like easy, obtain this transitory license. So sometimes it is better to do everything in-house, but when you're facing some new stuff, sometimes it's better to approach the guys who already know how to work with this.
Right. So there's another question about how can operators leverage technology to streamline the licensing process and ensure an ongoing compliance with the regulations. And are there any specific tools or platforms that you guys particularly use or say that they are effective?
There are a couple of providers who actually assist with this compliance stuff, But I would say that these guys are more focused on local licensing regimes, and they are not so deep into the flexible licensing regime, because usually these questions are covered by the local guys in Curacao, any island of the flexible license we're talking about. So I wouldn't, at least from my understanding, maybe Dmitry has another thing to say, but from my understanding, all these compliance providers, I mean technology compliance providers, they are mostly focused on the local markets, not on the flexible license markets.
Yeah, here I think you just need to stick to one well-proven approach. Outsource everything that you are not understanding and build your in-house expertise. If you are not like a top player or on the marketing scheme, just outsource your marketing to some agency and try to build your internal expertise working with them. Same for operational excellency, same for AML compliance, etc. So what's good is that you got a lot of options, a lot of technology to implement, but it's not about the scarcity of options. It's about the reasonableness and finding the optimal one to implement in your business. There's no like silver bullet solution that I don't know, I will use this platform and it will do everything for me. Basically, we are talking about an online business. Online business is 95% are people who are working with you, and 5%, I think it's like the level of your chances and of how fortunate you are in terms of being in the right place and in the right time. So I think the best idea here is to like have the best team you may think about and try to think like several steps ahead, not like only concentrating on the not only reacting on the issue that you are seeing, but trying to be strategic about what we are doing and where we're heading. And that will resolve like 80% of the issues that you are seeing. Is what we've seen from the perspective of our clients, what we are seeing in our work as management consultants pretty much every day. So no silver bullet, just finding the optimal solutions for your business of your size.
All right. So there is one last question from the audience about what are some of the pitfalls operators face when navigating the licensing process in these regions, and how can they avoid them?
Well, I think they are too optimistic about terms and about total amount of money they would need to put into business to start it operating. First and foremost, again, 2 to 3 months, it's something that is achievable and normal for getting a license. But in any case, you need to be ready like to wait 4 or 5 months when applying for a license, and just have a good projections and good financial plan here. If you are like paying 40K for a license, it's not like total cost of your business. You would need to pay for a company setup. You would need to pay to advisors. You would need to pay to auditors. You would need to pay to your marketing agents. You would need to reserve some money as a commission to PSPs. And when you bundling those costs, you are just better understanding the situation. Unfortunately, we are seeing cases where people are coming like, I bought 100K, I want to start a casino because I've seen some promotion that like a turnkey casino you are paying and it will be working. It's not working like that. It's never been actually, but especially not today. You are seeing like the highest competition ever in this area. You are you are seeing pressure from some new technology providers. Like imagine if you're the first online casino to include Aviator on your website, you would you would win that game because people are basically excited about that new type of games, but you are not protected from the case where there is a new game coming tomorrow and you are not the first and not the second and not the third to put it onto your website. And yeah.
Right. Ivan, you want to add something to this?
I deeply apologize. I was missing for a couple of minutes. Could you please repeat the question so I would add something to this?
Yeah, of course. It's about what are some of the common pitfalls that operators face when navigating the licensing process, and how can they avoid them?
Well, from my experience, actually, I would add that in addition to Dmitry said, that's totally right and totally correct. I would just additionally add that UBO profile, which the client is eager to use for the license obtained, have to be thoroughly selected. I mean that this is one of the key things that the regulator are looking into. And from my experience, I have seen the situation when everything was in order. I mean, in terms of product, in terms of I don't know, everything, in terms of finance, everything was in order. But the profile of UBO was not satisfied by the regulator, and the whole process took like about 6 or 7 months when they thoroughly expected the profile, the source of wealth of the UBO. So despite the actually limited time frame for obtaining the license, like 1 or 3 months, the whole process took like 6 or 7 months. So this is one of the key issues I'm facing in day-to-day work in terms of the licensing. So this would be the answer from my side, in addition to Dmitry's one, obviously.
All right, guys. So I think that's about it. We had almost 1.5 hours of content. Thank you so much for that. So if you maybe still missed some points that you would like to add.
Well, obviously we can add more and more and speak about more and more sometimes boring stuff, but I guess that is it what we was designated and what we're planning to share with our audience. Obviously, we would be also happy to share this presentation among your subscribers in order to they understand, they will see the whole presentation. We're eager to share it with you and with your subscribers. So this would be our gift for your audience.
All right.
And
thank you so much.
I think we would need to take another minute to thank you and your agency for.
That's for sure. That goes without saying. In the beginning and at the end, obviously, we are quite thrilled.
It's our pleasure.
Yes, give us an opportunity to share some thoughts on this issue, and we're eager to do more and more with you on this topic, on any other topic. We are quite multifunctional in terms of what we are doing.
All right. Okay. So thank you, guys. The recording of the session will be available in a couple of minutes on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Thank you so much for attending. We will be back next week with the European Gaming Q3 meetup. But until then, make sure to subscribe to our channels to be updated about our podcasts and everything we launch daily. So Dmitry, Ivan, thank you once again, and I wish you guys a great summer.
Likewise.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you guys know where to reach them. You can find them on LinkedIn or just go to their website. All right. So take good care.
Thank you very much, Zoltan. Thank you very much, audience.
Okay.